Hey, what's up guys? So in this video I want to go ahead and share my initial impressions of the Escort ZW5 wireless laser shifters. Now I've done a video of them already, just a general overview talking about the jammers, how they work and how the whole wireless thing works. Now once I finished that video I wanted to go ahead and get more familiar with them. So I had a trip this past weekend and I went ahead and installed them onto my wife's car. She's been running a Max 360C and she's been shot with laser a couple times recently. Actually saw a pullover, that was kind of cool. And now she's more interested in having some additional protection on her car. And since we had a trip coming this weekend, I went ahead and installed them last week. And it was perfect timing because on the way down to go camping, we actually got shot with laser and I had a chance to experience the system in action for the first time. And it was awesome because there were a number of things that I noticed using the system in practice that I didn't realize just from the bench testing, and I wouldn't necessarily see from if I did like the controlled testing against a variety of different laser guns, which I still want to do, of course, to see how effective it is in terms of being a jammer, but actually having a chance to use it in practice, I noticed a number of different things that I'd like to share with you guys as well. Now, it's funny when I was posting the install pictures on Facebook or on Instagram, a number of you guys messaged me and you were like, why are you installing ZW5s on her car? Why don't you get her a set of ALPs? And it's a great question because yes, ALPs are a better jammer. And the reason it's kind of similar to why I like to run a different radar detector almost every week. I just want to see how they all compare, pros and cons to a variety of different systems. And I learn a lot by actually using this stuff in practice. Now, as far as the ZW5s, as I mentioned, she's running a 360C already. So, it pairs very nicely with what she's already running. She drives a Honda Fit. It's a smaller car, so a system with just two heads works just fine. We have PL3s and PL4s and True Speed S's and stuff, so the guns that we face here, the system should be able to handle just fine. She doesn't necessarily want a ton of drilling done to her car and whatnot, and so having something that's wireless like this is appealing to her, and it's also easier for me because the install is quite simple. Actually, when she comes back, I want to do another video actually showing the install and what all is involved there. I really liked it. It was one of my favorite things about this system. It makes everything a lot easier. Like, not only is the whole wireless thing means you don't have to drill through the firewall, but integrating it with your radar detector here means the install in the cabin is a lot simpler too. I mean, there's no additional CPU you need to install in the cabin. There's no external speaker. There's no GPS antenna. There's no additional controller or dedicated display. Like, everything is just handled through here, which you already have installed anyway. And so it makes everything a lot simpler in terms of the interior install. So I really like the installation part, and I want to do a separate video just about that. But in this one, I want to talk about my initial impressions using the system in practice.
Or our car.
I guess that's true. It would be our car. Slow down. No. There we go. Yeah,
Can you read me now?
You can now.
I'm doing 60.
Yeah, you're good.
I think it's 555, but it's not like I'm going crazy.
Yeah, there he is. Hey, officer, what gun is that? Pro Laser 4. Now, first of all, the first thing I want to talk about is automatic Jdk functionality. I mentioned it in the previous video, and it has to do with the fact that with the ZW5, it will not disable the jamming functionality whatsoever on its own. It is up to you when you get shot with laser to slow down and then double press the mute button to disable the jammers. You can do it here on the detector or on the smart cord or the hardwired smart cord. Either one, double press the mute button and it'll disable your jammers. Now, Escort doesn't make it clear as far as how you're supposed to jammer or disable your jammers. In fact, there is zero mention of that whatsoever in the documentation. If you take a look at the manual, there's no mention of the fact that you're supposed to double press the mute button to disable the jammers. They do mention that in the ZR5s, the wired version, and they also mention it in the Max CI manual. In the wireless ones, there is no mention of how to disable the jammers. There's also no ability to have the jammers automatically disable after a period of time. Somebody actually messaged me in my previous video last week and they said they had installed a set of ZW5s and they got shot with it, and because they were running these jammers, they got pulled over. What had happened was they didn't realize that the jammers don't automatically disarm, so they effectively jammed a gun. They jammed the officer who wasn't able to get a reading and pulled them over to take a look at their car. Fortunately, in this situation, he thought it was just something with the headlights interfering with his laser gun, but you don't want to be doing that kind of stuff, and I think that's kind of irresponsible of Escort to not have any sort of auto JTK functionality whatsoever. We brought this up with them in the past, like when the Shifter Max came out first with the Max CI. We brought it up and they're like, yeah, maybe we'll consider adding it, but still haven't done so to this day. ZR5, ZW5, no auto JTK functionality. If it was up to me, that would be not only like available, but that would be the default way that these should function. I mean, what you're supposed to do is when you get shot with laser, and I talk about this all the time, is you slow down and you disable the jammer. The jammer should be able to do that for you. In fact, there should be something like a big card here, like a big yellow card when you open the box. It's like, hey, when you get shot with laser, your system will protect you for a couple seconds, enough time to slow down and avoid the ticket, and then they will automatically disarm so that the officer can get a reading. I mean, again, I've talked about this so many times, like it's really, really important, and I have no idea why the functionality doesn't even exist here, much less why it's not mentioned or discussed whatsoever. So that kind of boggles my mind, but that's the auto JTK functionality. Escort, I think, really, really needs to add that. I brought it up on the forums. I've talked to Escort's managers about this, and when I go to Escort next week for the interview, you better believe I'm going to be talking about this. Like, this is something that's really, really critical. In any event, we already know about this here for the system. That's nothing new. Now, something that I noticed that I didn't realize before is when you get shot with laser, what you're supposed to do is, double press the mute button. However, there is no audio confirmation to let you know that your jammers have been disabled. What it'll do is on the display, when you double press it, the word shifting will disappear, but there's no audio confirmation to let you know that, yes, you've done a good job, you've done the right thing, your jammers are disarmed. This is different than, say, the ALP, the anti-laser priority. When you disable those jammers, it will actually announce interference detection only.
Interference detection only. Pro Laser 3 ahead.
Now this is great. With those, all you have to do is press a button, any button, and your jammers will instantly disarm and let you know, so that when you're driving, if you're focused on the road, you're looking for the officer, you're checking your speedometer, you're checking your rearview mirror as you hit the brakes to make sure the guy behind you doesn't rear end you or anything. Like, you're focused on the road, It's got your attention. You don't want to be staring up at your detector to see if the word shifting disappears. Like, it needs to be very clear as far as how you disable your jammers. Now, something else I actually wanted to mention. When we got shot this past weekend, I told my wife this whole story about the person who didn't disable their jammers and how important it is for you to disable them. So when we were in the car, because it was brand new, I wanted to teach her how to use it and how it works. And so we started driving, and I started explaining, here's what it sounds like when you get shot with laser. And she'd been shot a couple times recently, so she was familiar with the sound, the kind of type sound. When that happens, you're going to want to slow down, right? Check your speed, and then double press the mute button to disable the jammers. I had her practice actually reaching up to the detector, as well as reaching down to the hardwired smart cord, and practicing both to help build it into the muscle memory so that she can do it without thinking. Now, when she actually got shot with laser, she did a good job of like, oh my gosh, the alarms are going off, I need to slow down. But in the heat of the moment, she did the exact same thing that I did when I first started running jammers, is I forgot to disable the jammers. I was just like, what's going on? You go a little deer in the headlights the first couple times, So again, it's so important to have that auto JTK feature. And so when that happened, I actually reached up and disabled the jammers for her. If she didn't do that, that could have been a big issue for her, just like the other person who'd commented on my video last week. So as you can tell, I really, really believe strongly in this whole auto JTK thing. I don't know why Escort doesn't include it, but yes, so that needs to be there, as well as audio confirmation that your jammers have been disabled. Now, there's a couple other little things that I noticed, things like how the automatic display brightness here on the Max 360C doesn't actually go to full brightness in the daytime. It's actually running at minimum brightness. You can go and manually change the brightness setting to run it at maximum brightness, and it'll be bright, but if you switch it into automatic display brightness, even in direct sunlight, it'll be at the minimum setting. That was kind of weird. I also noticed there's some things like the if you're running it against like a speed sign or something, there were several instances where the detector goes from silent to like full alert, as if you go, you just got owned by instant on. Normally against a constant on source, it's supposed to start weak and progressively ramp up. That's not what I'm seeing here with the detector, especially if you're running it in automatic sensitivity mode. And so some of the alert presentation and display stuff, like the ramp up, could be improved in auto mode. That maybe is a separate issue. I know we're talking about the radar stuff instead of the laser stuff, but the display here could be improved. The disabling the jammers, the automatic JTK functionality, the confirmation that your jammers have been disarmed, like, I think it needs a good amount of work, and you would hope that for like, this is the most expensive radar detector on the market as far as windshield mounts, and this is not the most expensive one, but it's not cheap. I mean, it's $849 here for the system. Like, you would hope that there's a certain level of refinement, and that Escort is going to be listening to their customers. And I don't know, like, do they use these products? Like, some of the stuff, it's kind of a no-brainer. I don't know why there's no confirmation. Why is there no auto JTK? I have no idea. So using it in practice, I'm kind of at a loss, I guess. I don't quite get it. Some of these things could be easily added, like, yes, auto JTK and confirmation of your jammers being disarmed, and adjust the automatic display brightness. Like, that kind of stuff could be adjusted, but why does it have to in the first place? Why wasn't this stuff included from day one? It's been brought up repeatedly by myself and others. Why are these things not being done? I've talked about how important updates are for a laser jammer to stay on top of, you know, as laser guns change, the jammers need to be updated, and these are updatable. There's a USB port on the back that you just plug in your computer to update them. But why isn't basic critical functionality being added here? And yeah, I don't know. I don't get it. Whatever. Yeah, so I guess my initial impressions are not super hot using the ZW5. The install part, the wireless thing, I do think that's pretty cool, and I want to do a separate video actually showing you what the install is like, but my initial impressions so far are a little bit less than ideal. So hopefully Escort will actually implement some of these things that I think they really need to do. So anyways, yeah, there you go. There's my initial thoughts of the ZW5. I still have to do some testing to see how effective it is in terms of actually jamming, right? I'm expecting it to do fairly well, but we'll have to see. Other than that, yeah, there you go. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. And yeah, until next time, happy driving, and I'll see you guys in the next video.